everyone, today's video is one that I've seen on a few people's channels recently, and I thought it was really interesting. And it's their favorite eyeshadow in a palette. So I feel like everyone has those palettes where they keep them around or whatnot, but they don't really love everything. They just love some stuff, or you know, they love a lot of it, but they don't really like a couple of shades. So I thought that was interesting, and I thought it would be beneficial. I'm actually gonna go through my entire palette collection and do that right now. Excuse me, so this might be a little bit of a longer video, but I don't know, I thought it'd be fun. So let's go ahead and get into it. First, I'm going to talk about things that I am currently panning. So we have the Beauty and the Beast Tales All This Time. This is my Pan That palette. And I would have to say, out of all of them, the shade Beast Mode, this really pretty navy. It's a matte navy, but I feel like so many matte navies are really disappointing, and they don't end up like you want to on the eye, and this one really does. It is gorgeous, so I think that's probably my favorite shade. I haven't really picked out my favorite shade in these already. I'm just gonna kind of wing it. So next we have the Too Faced I Believe in Pink palette, and I think this one is gonna be Pink Rink. It's a little bit of a chunky shade. I know some people kind of dislike those shades that Too Faced will put out. Here we go. But it's just really pretty. It's almost like a topper, to be honest. I just think it's a gorgeous shade, and it's kind of unique in my collection. I really don't wear that much gold. I know a lot of people really like it, and I don't have a problem with it, but I don't have that much. But it's kind of a rosy tone gold. It's right there. Next, I have my Anastasia Beverly Hills Maya Mia palette. And this one is hard because I like quite a few shades in here. I think my favorite is probably actually Gold Bar, just because I feel like it's unique. It is a very yellow gold right there. It's almost like a chartreuse, but not quite. So I really like that shade. I think it's unique in my collection. And as you know, or if you don't, you will see, I have a lot of eyeshadow, so finding unique shades is sometimes a little hard. Next, I have the Urban Decay Smoked palette. Now, this palette's very dark, and I don't think you can make a whole look out of this palette, but I do like these deeper shades at the bottom for, to kind of like outer V. And I think, I don't know, I like all three, but I think Loaded is probably my favorite. It is a very blackened green. The only thing I don't like is sometimes it can show up a little black when you actually apply it, but you can tell there is some green in it. And I like that. I think it's kind of unique as well. And then I have the Stila Eyes Are the Window Body palette. I don't love this palette, but the shade Moonstone, which is right here, it's just a shimmery white, and it is the most amazing inner corner highlight that I own. I would compare it to this Mars vanilla frosting pigment that I have, and this is a pigment, and that's just like a pressed shadow, but it is so beautiful. If you own that palette, I really recommend that. A lot of these other shades look beautiful in pan, don't swatch the nicest, or don't actually perform the nicest, but that one is gorgeous on the eyes. Then we have the Kat Von D Esperanza palette. I like a lot of these shades. I think this is a really cool collection of shades, but this shade Placebo, it's like a matte, well, it's like a matte red, but it's kind of a pinky red. I don't know. Again, it's just unique, and that's what I like. I like kind of more interesting shades, unique shades. This is a cool collection of shadows, but that Placebo shade, I feel like I don't really have anywhere else. Okay, so now we're going to start digging through the drawer. First, Urban Decay Moon Dust. So this is a bunch of kind of topper shadows, and I think my favorite is probably Light Year. It's one of the most opaque in my opinion. Still not super opaque, but it's like all glitter. You see that shine and reflect? I just think that's beautiful. I like this palette, but that shade specifically always catches my eye, you know? Then I have the Urban Decay Electric palette. This one is hard because I like so many of these shades. It's probably Jilted. Jilted, unfortunately, is one of those shades that you're not technically supposed to use on the eyes. I love purple eyeshadow. It's really shimmery. It's got like a blue shift to it. If you can definitely see it in the swatch on the finger. But 4 of these eyeshadows you're not technically supposed to use on the eyes, and that's one of them, which is unfortunate. I do notice some irritation occasionally when I wear it, which really bothers me. It makes me almost not want to keep the palette because of that. That lip line is not so clean, sorry. Took a nap today, so I'm a little disheveled. I did try to, like, you know, touch up a little bit, but what are you gonna do? This is the MAC Nutcracker Sweet Cool Eye Compact. And I really like this shade, which I believe is called Spoiled. No. Absurdly Pretty. It's the one kind of, what do they call it now? The pop effect. It doesn't swatch the greatest. I mean, God. There you go. So you can see, it's not the most opaque, but it's like the one shade that like pops out of the palette. I like poppy colors, if you don't know. This is kind of a pre-made ColourPop palette. I would really like to get 5 more shadows and really complete it, but I haven't. Oh, this poodle shade looks a lot like Placebo. It's a little more pink, but I do like this shade, which I believe is called Chessmate. So, you know, it's kind of cheating because it is pre-made, but it's like a matte green. It's kind of dirty looking. I don't know. It's cool. It's really nice on the eyes and extremely, extremely pigmented, as you could hopefully appreciate in that swatch. Urban Decay Ammo Palette. This has a lot of really famous Urban Decay eyeshadows. I like a lot of them, probably Shattered. It's a blue with like a gold reflect in it. I think it's really pretty. It's a great all over the lid shade. Then I have this BH Cosmetic Enhancing Eyes palette, and I think my favorite shade in here, I always end up using these on accident, but I really like this purple, which is called Stargazer. Just really pretty. Like I said, purple eyeshadows are my favorite for sure. All right. Speaking of purple eyeshadows, the H&M Aubergine Dream Eye Color Palette. This palette is such nice quality, and this shade, it's like deep eggplant. Again, like I kind of mentioned with the Urban Decay Smoked palette, I find that sometimes really dark shades can look kind of black on the lid. Sorry, it is kind of powdery. But this always looks purple. It doesn't look anything else. Now you can look a little bruised if you don't blend it out super great, but it's a really nice eyeshadow. The Anastasia Prism palette. The reason I bought this palette, if we're being honest, is because of Sphere. This yellow, it's so intense. So crazy intense. I really like it. And again, I don't feel like I own very much like that. The Too Faced Clover palette. This is such a cool palette. I feel like it's got so many pops in here. This Lucky Clover shade is similar to Chessmate. Not exactly the same, but it's similar. Oh, y'all, this one's hard. I like this Good Boy shade, but I don't love the way it actually performs on the eyes, which is kind of the important part. But this shade Spoiled, which is similar to Shattered, if we're being honest. They're similar. This one's a little more high shine metallic. It doesn't have that like duochrominess, but I really like it, and I feel like on the lid it always performs exactly what I want, how I want it to. Too Faced Sweet Peach palette. I really like Just Peachy. I feel like it's like the most appropriate for this palette. It's a nice shimmer. I feel like it doesn't, I don't know, it's a color. It's got some gold reflect. If you can see that, I'm not sure you can. It's a color, but it looks really neutral on the lid. Like it doesn't seem too colorful for like a very professional situation or something like that. Then we have Too Faced Chocolate Bonbons palette. This is really nice, and I really love the shade Cafe Au Lait. I like a silvery shade as well. Oh man, just threw it on the ground. So it's kind of like a taupey gray, brown, silver. I don't know, it's interesting. So I don't know what that is. I really like that. Kat Von D Pastel Goth. I like these shades a lot. They're very pretty on the lids. My favorite is probably Doom. I really like Star, that yellow as well. But again, on the lid, I find that a lot of yellows don't really perform the way I would like them to. But that blue is so pigmented. You really can't fault it. You can fault her, can't fault that shadow. Kat Von D Interstellar palette. Now this is not one of my favorite palettes. I feel like a lot of times I don't love the look I get out of it, but this shade, which is Moonshine, I mean like molten silver. Right there. Gorgeous. Absolutely love you. Lovely. Sephora Pantone Universe Watercolors palette. This is a palette that I just love. I feel like people don't talk about it very much on YouTube, but every single shadow in here is really nice. My favorite is probably this green one. They all have like weird numbers for names. So it's a lot more brighter than the Chestmate shade, but it's really pretty. Then we have the Too Faced Sugar Pop palette. My favorite in here is definitely Blue Raspberry. I feel like, you know, it is kind of similar to the shade I just swatched actually. It's deeper, but it's really unique in my collection and I really like it, and I just think it just always performs well. I have the Tarte Amazonian Clay palette. And this is a very neutral palette for me. My favorite shade is called Up to No Gold. And it's a very high shine metallic gold shade, which makes sense, you know, Up to No Gold. Okay, Super Fun Night. This is one of those Too Faced, it was a trio. And I think my favorite shade in here is this Lucky Star. It's like a yellow toned inner corner highlight. It's not near as reflective as, say, like Moonstone, but it is really reflective and pretty on the eyes. Then Too Faced Natural Beauty. I love 5 golden rings right here. Again, these aren't like super thick. They're like a thin metallic, if that makes sense. Sorry, I'm trying to swatch with my left hand, and I'm so right hand dominant. It's crazy. It's a thinner shade than like say this Tarte one, but it's really nice and reflective, and it's a little more, it's very gold on the lid. Sephora Minnie's World in Color palette. I love this palette. I'm really considering panning it. Now it's got some great shades, but my favorite is Ex-Boyfriend right here. So soft, and just like watch, like light pink, pigmented, shiny, metallic wonder. Love it. Really love that palette. Urban Decay Full Spectrum palette. I know that some people don't like this palette, and that's fine. I love it. I love every shade in here. I really, really, really do. But my favorite is probably Mean. It's like a lime green. So pretty. It's almost a metallic, well, it's more green than sphere, but it's gorgeous. And again, it applies that way. You know, some some shades look really nice in the pan and even swatching it, but doesn't apply as nicely. So this is my Stila like 10 color palette, and this shade Copper. So pretty. Like, so metallic, so bright. I mean, I feel like I'm getting kind of redundant, but that's what I like, you know? This is the Urban Decay Urban Spectrum palette. Oh, again, I really love this palette. I'm also considering panning this guy. This is the shade Omen, which is a purple with a very strong blue shift, which is something I've really, really been into lately. I talked about this very recently in that video that I did about why I'm not going to buy the ABH Norvina palette, and you know, that Omen shade is definitely one of the reasons. And then the Balm Jovi Rockstar palette, a great palette. Really powdery shades, but really nice, and I think my favorite is Metallica. This silver, it's like a white silver. And did not swatch super well. like I said, it's like a white silver, so it's really brightening and really pretty on the eyes. This is the Makeup Forever 15 color artist palette. Came out Christmas 2015, I want to say. Some really nice pops of color. My favorite is definitely, what is this one called? D236. This like tealy sea foam. Sometimes these get like a weird gel-ish like over thing, and you kind of have to, I scrape it off. I know that's kind of wasteful, but it's what I do. Because otherwise they won't apply very well. But there it is. It's really pretty. You can see I like those kind of shades. And it just works well in the palette. Alice in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass. Again, a palette that's very hard for me to pick a single shade that I like the best because I like so many of them. But it might be Lily, honestly. Like, I really, it's hard. But Lily is this really pretty white. Oh, it's not showing up in the swatch. Okay, it is. You can see that pink duochrome. I just love it. I feel like I love a lot of these shades and I reach for it. Another one that I'm considering panning this year, or for my pan palette 2019. But I just feel like that's the one that my eyes are always drawn to, the ones I always want to use, and then when I put it on the lid, it always does what I want it to. Alright, gotta pull out the guys that are in the very back of the drawer. Okay, Urban Decay Vice 4. Another one I'm considering panning. It's probably going to be an Urban Decay palette if you haven't noticed, which I know are a lot harder to pan than Lorac, and I'm already kind of doing okay with Lorac. But I love this palette. This shade Flame. It's similar to the Moon Dust formula. It really is. It's this like really flaky gold, orange with some gold shift, but on the lid it just looks amazing. And I know that you're not like, people generally don't like to, but that in the crease, oh, so beautiful, so beautiful. All right, there we go. So now this is the Makeup Forever 9 Artist Palette. This is volume number 2. I like a lot of these, but probably my favorite is this pink, which is ME 910. I also like this one, but it's very similar to the other one I already swatched, my Makeup Forever. Again, it needs to kind of be scraped off, but it's a nice hot pink, and I like hot pinks, and that was one of the first ones I really had in my collection. The Lime Crime Venus palette. This palette is so pretty, so soft. I like a lot of them. My favorite is actually probably Muse. This super deep matte red. Look at that, like so pigmented. It blends out really nicely. I know it might not look that way in the swatch, but it honestly does. That's a great palette, y'all. The Urban Decay Gwen Stefani palette, a lot of neutrals, and y'all know I'm not a huge neutral person, but I love this palette. I feel like it really rounds out a look. My favorite shade in here, ooh, might be Harajuku. It does take a lot of building up, I'm not gonna lie. It's not as easy to use as other ones that I've shown y'all today. But it's like a really cute like baby pink, and I like that. I think it's like, again, unique and just fun. The Tarte Magic Star collection that came out this holiday season, and I did get quite a bit of use out of it, as you can hopefully appreciate. I like a lot of these shades. Indulgence is gorgeous. Oh, so many of these are beautiful. But Tassel, this really pretty blue, again, not only looks pretty in the pan, but also shows up the way I want it to on the eye. It is a little more gray than you might think it would be, but it is similar to, what did I say, Shattered and the Spoiled and the Too Faced one. It's a similar vein, I understand that. I know, you know, when you have as many eyeshadows as I do, as a lot of us do, they can get a little repetitive, but those are still my favorites, so I'm just gonna be honest. Too Faced Smoky Eyes palette. This shade in a flash, my favorite silver. I like the Kat Von D one, I do, but just look at that. Like, it looks like I just dipped, like I melted down some dimes, which I guess is technically nickel, and just like dip my hand in it. It's so pretty. I love it. Again, applies that way on the eyes. So nice. Smashbox Smashbox Art Love Color number 4. A beautiful palette. There are definitely some duds in this palette. Some of what would be my favorite just don't look so nice on the eyes. But my favorite on the eye, ooh, that's hard. Probably Torch. This orange shade. It has some glitter in the pan, but it doesn't necessarily have that much glitter on the lid. These shadows are, again, like a thinner consistency. They can look a little patchy. You have to kind of work with them a little bit, but they're very nice. And I have the volume 3 of the masterclass as well. Here we are. Really like these. Again, these neutrals are great. They really help ground out the look, but I'm a color gal. And the shade that I like the best is probably Zoom. Oh, that's kind of crumbly. I do have hairy arms, so it's, you know, I'm running out of space here. But it's that green with a little bit of gold. It's really cool. Really nice. Really like it. All right. The final 3. This Beauty Treats palette. It's a gem, y'all. It's like $6. I really recommend you purchasing it. My favorite shade is this one. By far, the best light blue eyeshadow that I own. Oh, that did not swatch as well. On the eyes, it looks exactly how you want. I feel like I have so many light blues that when you put them on your eyes, they look kind of white or they don't really show up. But this one does, and it is so beautiful. Okay. The Lorac Pirates of the Caribbean palette, another one of my favorites. It's just a really cool collection of shades. I like so many of these shades. This is hard. My favorite is probably Starry Night. Like, so high shine metallic. And it is deeper than those other blue shades I've been talking about. There we go. Really like it. It's so pretty on the eyes. And last, the Kat Von D Me Vida Loca Remix palette. We've got a lot of color here. A lot of really nice shades. Some that I don't love so much, I'm not gonna lie. But my favorite is Synth. This super similar to the other Kat Von D Pastel Goth, but so much more pigmented, so bright, so gorgeous on the lid or anywhere in your look. So those are my favorite eyeshadows in each of my palettes. I have a lot of palettes. This was a long video. Can you tell that I like color? Just wondering if you can maybe get that vibe. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it interesting. I'm thinking tomorrow I might film my least favorite shadows in all of these palettes. If you're interested in that, hopefully you are. But yeah, that's all I have for you today. As always, please leave any questions, requests, suggestions, comments down below. Talking to you all is one of my favorite things, and I'll see you all real soon. Bye.